Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Machine Dreams, the show where we get behind the curtains to see what's really working in AI today and what's not working and what the future might hold for all of us. I'm Kolawole Samuel Adebayo. I'm a technology analyst and Forbes contributor, and I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host.
Hey, Sam, and hi, everyone. I'm Leah Stern, a global communications strategist and venture capitalist. Great to be back. How you doing?
Very well. How was your trip back?
Yeah, home safe and sound, avoided any conflicts. Grateful to be back. Missed you all.
Great, great.
So today we're talking about the next frontier of AI, not just models or compute, but actually how AI becomes trusted, adaptive, and embedded in the most complex real-world systems of all, treating the human brain. We're joined by Yotam Drechsler, CEO and co-founder of BrainQ, an Israeli-US-based medical device company developing an AI-powered therapeutic platform for brain recovery and brain health. BrainQ is focused on helping patients recover after neurological injuries such as stroke. They use AI to tailor the therapy as well as to monitor and scale a remote care model for their patients. Yotam brings together business, neuroscience, and machine learning, and today we'll explore how AI is moving into the brain space, what makes this moment different, and what it takes to build AI systems people can truly trust with their most precious asset, which is their brain. Hi, Yotam. So nice to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Leah, and nice to meet you both. Happy to be here.
Thank you again, Yotam. Great to have you here. So let's just dive right into it. The brain has always been treated as uniquely complex and, for obvious reasons. And now we're in an era where AI is moving into healthcare, medicine, clinical use at breakneck speed. What do you think people are getting wrong about applying AI to the brain right now?
One interesting anecdote is that AI and the way we think about AI started from neuroscience, from brain. I mean, when we talk about deep learning models, this was a neuroscience concept that has been applied towards computer science in order to maybe try and learn in a better way. And then what we saw is that within computer science, we have had this explosion, right, of the way we understand AI in the last 2 decades and definitely in the last few years. To some extent, neuroscience was left out, even though this is where it all started. So when we talk about applying back AI, we are towards brain. We are taking something that started from neuroscience. We're now bringing it back, and the reason is, why would it work now? And the truth is that A, you have to do it because the need is there imminently, and B, with the greater and greater trust we have in AI, I think we are approaching a point where we could tackle such a complex problem. And we see it with companies now like Neuralink of Elon Musk, and of course what we do in BrainQ and as well as other companies. And we can talk about the more details.
So if you could just break down for us, what is BrainQ? What is the technology? How does it work?
Yeah. So if we talk about BrainQ, I think the first thing to mention is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Brain health is something that relates to each and every one of us. If you think about the last 100 years, we as humanity got really good in terms of keeping individuals alive. We have worked on what we call longevity, right? Our brain, by definition, is our most precious asset, a complex machine, and over time it will deteriorate one way or another. If you're 90 years old or if you're 20 years old, I mean, we're not seeing the same cognitive function. We're not seeing the same motor function typically. And over the course of life, you may end up acquiring multiple neuro disorders, especially when aging. We don't have any solution for this today. If no matter where you are, you guys are in UK, you can be in the US, you can be in Israel, it doesn't matter. If you have a neurological disorder, most of what we can deliver you with is a 19th century based standard of care. When you talk about physical therapy, occupational therapy, it's a 19th century invention. And this is still a standard of care. There is nothing there to treat. So every single one of us is going to meet it one way or another for themselves, for their families. We're talking about, space, and building data centers in space, but you are in the 19th century when it comes to treat your most precious asset. BrainQ wants to change it. And changing it is not simple, but what I want to make sure that is that I have a way to treat neural disorders in a more effective way, in a more personalized way, because no two brains are the same, in a more scalable way, because neuro treatments can never happen in the hospital. Neuro patients are at home. My grandmother, she passed away, but she had a stroke. She was at home. You could barely mobilize her one way or another. So you have to find a way where you treat hundreds of millions of individuals in parallel, at least, at their home. So that's what we need to try to tackle in BrainQ. And the way we do it is we've built this kind of a one-stop shop therapeutic system that aims to change completely the care model, bringing substantially more effective treatment, one that is safe, and one which is feasible and can take place at the comfort of patients' home. The way we do so is a tailored neuromodulation, which is powered by AI. That means the parameters of the electromagnetic field are targeting networks in the brain and facilitate reorganization, or in a more scientific words, neuroplasticity, coupled with a virtual care platform that provides multimodal interventions, physical therapy, sensors, and so forth, coupled with a telemedicine-based approach, meaning it's all cloud connected, it's at the patient home, and a clinician can intervene and tweak the program in accordance to patient progress. So that's what we have developed, and we were seeing a very, very strong, results as well as demand for such a solution out there.
Great. You're right. Taking medical AI into the real world is hard. It's not an easy thing to do. For our viewers who are maybe not as technical and maybe were lost just for a second when you were talking about all of that, could you explain at the base level what this means for the everyday person who is wondering, what's this AI tool going to do to help maybe my uncle or my brother who is living with stroke or has a sort of disease that they have to deal with?
Right. So in a simplified version, what we are doing is an NVIDIA for brain recovery. I am giving the hardware in order to retrain models in the brain. When somebody had a stroke and now he's paralyzed enough of his body and I want to get his hand to function back, what I need to do is I need to retrain the networks in the brain that relate to this motor functioning. And this retraining is this kind of recurrent process. Physical therapy is also a lame way towards retraining the network. The question is, can I bring the right GPU to substantially amplify and expedite this retraining? Okay, that's what we do. So we have built this kind of NVIDIA process, and we have also done it in a scalable way where you could do it at your own.
It's so interesting. And believe that there's a crucial period, right? After you have a stroke, the period between when you have the stroke and get treatment is quite important, right? Tell me about that.
Yes. So in general, science is very, very clear in neuro disorders. If you early diagnose and you early intervene, there is typically a better path towards outcomes. Specifically in stroke, the time, the days, weeks, and months following a stroke are the ones that your brain most priming towards reorganization. Having said that, the window is always open. It's also years later, but you would be able to impact less. So maybe with the analogy we used before, you need much less GPUs if you're intervening very early versus many more GPUs if you intervene later down the road. I would get a much better model training if I were to intervene early on. So part of what we try to educate is intervene early. Every day matters. Okay. But also do not give up if you are years from the stroke.
And just curiously, how common is stroke now globally? How often does it happen?
I once went to give a lecture to my parents' synagogue. They were sitting there, probably hundreds of people, and this synagogue, I grew up there, but all the young people left, and I said, I wanted to get their attention. So the first sentence I gave them is, "Were you aware that 1 of 4 individuals over the age of 65 is going to have a stroke?" Which is pretty much everybody was in the crowd. So I said, okay, now I got your attention. It's inevitable to get something. And stroke is becoming a greater and greater problem when it comes to dignity of life, not for surviving a stroke. We really got better in terms of keeping patients alive following stroke. It used to be the number 1 cause of mortality. It's now number 5 or number 6 in Western worlds. So those patients survive the stroke. The question is what kind of life you're surviving into. If you're confined within a wheelchair, if you cannot unbutton your own shirt, if somebody needs to shower you, is that the life that you wanted for yourself? Is that how you want to spend in your next 15 years? And that's a very different problem, a much more challenging one, and actually in terms of scale, in terms of what you're doing, in terms of bringing back hope towards patients' life and their families.
I mean, there's a lot of questions to ask you, and you said a lot of interesting things. I think just on the back of that response, why do you think we're seeing such increasing numbers right now?
Well, in general, everything boils down to the way we live our life. You just pay the bill towards the end of your life. So if you eat well, and you're not, and there is no obesity, there is no diabetes, there is less of those kind of down the road complications. But at the end of the day, many of the patients we treat are patients that could have prevented their stroke by keeping a better course of life. It's not 100% guarantee, but it will substantially reduce those chances, right? And I think it's a very important notion because it has to do with every single chronic disease almost that is out there. Typically, if you were to maintain a very good and healthy life, there is less of a chance. And what we're doing with stroke patients is we don't just help them improve their upper extremity or lower extremity. The treatment helps them maintain healthy brain and avoid the next complication, meaning the second stroke, meaning dementia, which is one of the key factors. Like stroke is maybe the number 1 reason to develop a dementia. If you manage to build an healthier life, if you manage to train your brain every single day, there is less of a chance you're going to make it there. So it's not just about recovery, it's about prevention.
I mean, I remember when you first started the company, it was even before the whole craze around AI, and you had this image of the brain and the spine lit up. And I think you've always been very hyper-focused on anything to do with the brain. What has changed in the course of since you started the company in terms of what we know about the brain? And how has the onset of AI also helped you better understand the brain as well?
Yes. So, we started with what we call today AI back in 2017, 2018. BrainQ was one of 5 companies fortunate to be awarded by Google, our Google now, the same Google, into their AI studio, helping us, escorting us through developing our algorithm towards tailoring the electromagnetic field towards these stroke patients back in 2018 already. I think I was quite surprised to see, all of a sudden, there was this tweaking point of AI has been revealed to the world because, we've been there for a decade. I think that relates back to what has really changed. What really changed is the embracement of the general population, of the regulators, of everybody to say, okay, this is a game changer. For many of us that has been in the field before, this is what we felt is, it's a very strong tool. It's something that could help you in a data science way. It can help you, do things that you cannot do otherwise. Now we are embracing this concept as, in a greater perspective. I think that is the biggest difference. If I were to say I have an AI powered neuromodulation or a treatment a decade ago, nobody cares to the same extent as now. And also people would be more afraid. And now it's more of, that's the only way things could work, right? So it's about, perception in my perspective.
Great. There's a lot of concern about AI replacing doctors and therapists. It's a big conversation. Whatever AI conversation you have with people, that question always comes up. So how do you see AI working alongside clinicians rather than, replacing them? Where should humans always be in the loop?
Samuel, you live in the UK, right?
No, I live in Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay. Leah lives in the UK. And UK is known. The reason I'm saying UK is known right now. It had a national healthcare system, and at the same time, the last few years, for many patients, it's been quite challenging to actually get towards doctors and towards clinicians. If you look within the neurology space, there is a massive accessibility gap worldwide. I'm assuming it is the case in the UK. There are not enough neurologists, there are not enough therapists. Patients are craving to see, doctors. I don't think it is a question in my field whether or not you're going to replace a doctor. The question is, can I help a neurologist now oversee, 5x more patients? Can I help a therapist now oversee and manage dozens of patients daily instead of being able to just have one-to-one interactions? The model we have already deployed actually allows patients to autonomously use the therapeutic system at their own, while having a clinician in a loop, with telemedicine and AI tools, oversee many of them. So for me, I'm not replacing, I'm actually bridging the accessibility gap. We are many years from a point where I would say, we don't have a clinician in the loop. We are in a position where we say, with the AI and with, cloud and so forth, you for the first time can deliver your oversight and your guidance towards so many patients that are just waiting out there. And right now, nobody gets, to help them.
It's interesting. If you saw the news today in the UK, they're developing a blood test to help pinpoint early onset Alzheimer's and other brain related issues. So they're definitely trying to get detection earlier and also be able to get people on the radar if they can't physically see someone in person. So I think telemedicine for sure is the future. Tell us where you're at in terms of distribution, your model. I assume you're quite active already in the US and you're in the process of receiving FDA approval, correct? So why don't you just give us a summary of where you're at and what's to come?
Yes. So BrainQ is a 10-year-old company. If you think about the last 10 years, we have mostly devoted it towards R&D and clinical trials. When you want to bring an evidence-based therapeutic towards our most precious asset, you have to do it, I think, very thoughtfully. And that's part of, even when you bring AI, you have to make sure you do it in the safest and best way towards patients. We're now initiating commercialization. We already have unique clinic to all models that we have deployed in Israel, in South America. There is UAE that we're going to open soon, and then Europe, and all these are based on our CE mark, which is a very unique label for actually reducing disability following stroke based on our clinical results. We're also in a process for FDA submission, and we do believe that towards end of 2026 we're going to be in the US as well. The uniqueness of our model is that it resembles more of what you see now in the GLP-1 model. It means that patients can subscribe to our treatment. We're not selling devices to hospitals. We let you subscribe to something you could do at your own. And we bring you the entire kind of a care model. So you have the system, but you also have the clinician oversight, and the monitoring and so forth to give you this one-stop shop and bridging the gap that is currently missing within the care system. And that's the long-term recovery and brain health.
Well, that's great. As this technology scales across healthcare systems, the stakes are rising quite very quickly. What risks do you worry the most about as, AI-driven neurotech becomes more widely used? I guess the big question that I really want to ask is, what does responsible AI actually mean in the context of, brain recovery?
Responsible AI, in my perspective, the kind of foundation for everything we need to do. At the end of the day, AI is a tool. Okay, we cannot worship AI. We cannot worship anything else that's going to come later that's going to have another fancy name, AGI, doesn't matter. What we need to make sure is that in an healthcare perspective, in a brain perspective, that you see the patient and you see the benefit of the patient. If I can get towards a better result with less of an AI, this is what I'm going to do. If I could, if safety of a patient is being weighed towards using of a more AI, I'm going to use less of an AI, and I'm going to keep the, patient safe and feasible. And this is what we do also as a company. We are deliberately not maximizing the way we deliver the AI, because what we know is that, it is the patient, which are, stroke patients, elderly population at their home in a very fragile moment. This is not about how do I get them most acquainted with technologies. This is how do I treat them in their most delicate moment in life. So responsible AI is keeping, in my perspective, what really matters, at the end of the day. And this is your patients. And then every single thing that you blend inside, you want to make sure that you are clearly testing it. You're clearly monitoring it to make sure it delivers the promise and it doesn't deliver any kind of something else that you weren't intending towards. So it's a very delicate process and once that you build over years and not, you can't jump with MVPs all over. When you are dealing with healthcare, you have to make sure that you are doing it kind of a step-by-step approach, even if it means slowing down your adoptions towards kind of a new models and so forth. But it pays off, in my view.
Great. That's it from Yotam. You cannot worship AI. You should not worship AI. You should, consider the context of your patients before deciding to use AI. Thank you so much for a very thoughtful conversation, Yotam.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks to everyone listening. This is Machine Dreams, honest conversations about how AI is shaping medicine, work, and everyday life. If you found this episode valuable, please share and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.